Hi, my name is Lillian Sooter and I'm a kindergarten teacher at Hexter. Last time I talked to you was right before we went to the holiday break, and now it's almost March, so we've been back for a couple months now. And so we're kind of to the point in the year where it's kind of like the hill's going down. So we've kind of figured out how things run and we're just trying to make it through to the end of the year now. I feel like I have seen so many changes in my students. When they come in kindergarten, they know pretty much nothing. Like, you have to teach them every single procedure, how to line up, how to use the restroom, and even like kind of the first 6 weeks, your focus is more on that and a little bit less on the academic side. And at this point, they know what's expected of them, and they are reading books, and they can write, and they can do math, and they are a lot more independent than they were when they first came in. I can kind of just give directions 1 or 2 times instead of constantly walking them through and holding their hand through every process we go through, and they kind of understand what to do now and what's expected of them. So there's been a ton of growth from August to now, almost in March. I feel like I've grown a lot. I feel like the first year teaching, you learn so much about yourself and also just about your craft and how to do it. I think I'm still far from perfect, but I feel like I'm a lot more confident in the classroom. I feel like I'm not always like rushing around trying to figure out what to do next, trying to remember every single step, that it's kind of more like go with the flow now, and I'm able to be a little bit more relaxed in the classroom because I've been doing it for almost a whole year now, so I've kind of have my daily routines in place, and I'm not stressed out at every single point in the day anymore, which is a nice feeling. I think kindergarten ACP testing looks a lot different than other grades, just because, so first of all, in other grades they take a whole group, but in kindergarten, because they're so young, they split them up into small groups of like 5 to 7 kids. So a different teacher will come and pull them, and they work in a small group to complete their ACP test, and they have all the questions and answers read to them. So they're kind of walked through it a little bit more because they are so young. So a lot of our preparation just looked like, okay, when you take a test, like, you cannot say the answer out loud. You have to make sure you're on the right question. So we did a lot of practice with just like bubbling in and saying, okay, when I say point to number 1, can you point to number 1 and be with the teacher, or are you on the different page? You do a lot of practice just turning the page, because sometimes you say turn the page and they end up in the back of the packet instead of on the next question. So there's a lot of practice with that stuff. And then also we just kind of reviewed general concepts that we learned throughout the year. In kindergarten, there's a lot of cycling, so you go back to the same thing over and over again. So they had already learned everything they needed to learn. It was a lot of review. But honestly, we try not to stress them out too much and put too much pressure on them, because they're only 5 years old. And so we do want them to excel and do well, but at the same time we want them to be relaxed enough to actually show us what they know and not be so stressed out that they just forget everything. Their scores were all really good, so I was really pleased with how the scores came back. But I also think that it was stressful for everyone, just because as a teacher, no matter how relaxed you try to be about it, you always carry a little bit of stress because you know what your students know and you want them to show everyone else that. And so I think that sometimes that stress carries over to the students even when you don't want it to. But overall, I think they were pretty well prepared and did as well as you can expect any kindergartner to do. So I was pleased. We send home daily homework, and so a lot of those concepts on the homework were stuff that was going to be on the ACP test. But as far as partnering with parents, it was more just letting them know, hey, this is happening this week, so just so you're prepared and your child is prepared, make sure they get good sleep and that they come ready to learn and they get to school on time. I think there's tons of celebrations. All my kids did really well. Hexter, compared to the other schools kind of in our area, we did really well. Every single kindergarten class at Hexter did awesome. So I think overall it was worth it. As far as Terra Nova goes, I think it's kind of just the same as ACP. We practice bubbling, we practice having the dividers up, because they have to have, we call them offices in our class, but it's like a divider so that they can't see the papers next to them, and just making sure they're on the right question. We don't hound them with it, and we also don't know a lot about what Terra Nova looks like, and so we kind of just teach what we're supposed to teach and what the district tells us, and we know that that's pretty aligned with what they're going to be tested on. So we do a couple of common assessment practice. So we just did one, we did a math one that we as teachers make up as a team that we think might be similar to what Terra Nova looks like, and we give that to them as kind of practice. But that's pretty much all the preparation we do as far as that goes. We usually reward them by doing something fun with them or letting them have, like, at the end of the day we do free center, so sometimes we'll let them do extra free center time, or we'll pass out a little prize for them, and just let them know, like, hey, you did so good and we're so proud of you, and like your hard work was worth it. And we make sure and acknowledge that they did well, because it makes them feel really good when they find out that they did so well on the test. I think the challenge is that at this point in the year everyone's kind of tired, so it's just having enough energy to keep going and not stop learning, because I think it's really easy to, because the year's almost over, just be like, oh, we can kind of coast a little bit now, we know we've done the hard part, so now let's just kind of make it through. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to like keep going full speed ahead, even though there's that tendency to want to slow down a little bit. And then looking forward to, I think it's just going to be really cool to start comparing like the work they gave to me the first day of school to the end of school. I can already, like, when I flip through their writing journals, see so much progress, and so I think just seeing that continued progress is going to be really exciting for me, because it kind of makes you feel like, oh, I actually did something this year and I actually taught and they learned something. So I'm excited for that. We do PLCs every week, and those have definitely been helpful because we go in and all of the kindergarten teachers bring the same thing. And so we're able to discuss, okay, like, this is how your students did on it, this is how my students did on it, how did you teach it and why is it different? And that kind of, then you can go back and reteach it a different way if your students didn't perform well, or you always have new ideas kind of in your back pocket that you can start introducing. So I think that the most beneficial new learning I've had is just from that collaboration with our team and our instructional coach and our principal. I feel good. I feel like proud that I've almost made it this far, and excited that it's been a fairly successful year. There's definitely been challenges, but I think it's also been better than I expected it to be. I heard a lot of horror stories about the first year of teaching and how scary it was and how stressed and how you go home crying every day. And I've definitely had some of those moments, but it hasn't been all of that. There's been a lot of really good moments. So I think I feel encouraged that I can keep doing this.